Hey everyone, Mr. Newman here, and we're just going to do 4 practice problems where we factor the trinomials using the product sum method. So, right here, we can find product sum. Remember, the product is the A term times the C term, so 2 times 3 is 6, and the sum is the B term, that middle one in there. So 6 is the product, 5 is the sum. Let's list the factors of 6 so that we can find out which 2 factors add up to 5. 1 times 6 is 6, and 2 times 3 is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. So we're going to use 2 and 3. So here, remember, here's the setup. So we write down the first term and the last term. And in the middle, we're splitting up that 5x into blank x plus blank x. And the 2 and the 3 are the 2 numbers that we figured out need to be the way we split it up. So 2 and 3. Then we're going to GCF the first 2 terms. I see a 2x is the greatest common factor between those two, and we're left behind with x plus 1. And then a 3 is the greatest common factor for the next 2, and we're left behind with x plus 1 there. Then the last step is just writing both binomials. So you see x plus 1 is one of them, and 2x plus 3 is the other. So 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. For the next one, we're going to use product of sum. And 3 times 6 is 18, so that's our product. The sum is the number in the middle, the 11. And so we're listing the factors of 18 to find which 2 add up to 11. 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. And if you are keeping a lookout for what adds up to 11, you just have to go until you find one that adds up to 11. That'd be 2 and 9. And so let's split up the polynomial that way. So write everything down and put a 2x and a 9x in the middle. That's how we split up 11x. Now, let's GCF. The first one, the greatest common factor, is just an x. For the second 2, the greatest common factor is a 3. And when you pull those 2 out, you get 3x plus 2 is left behind in each case, which is good because those always have to be the same. Also notice if you wrote the 9 first and then the 2, that's fine. You just got these in a different order, but you should get the same final answer. Maybe just switched the 2 sets of parentheses, the order are switched. All right, for the next one, write product sum. And here, the product is 3 times 15, which is 45. If the product is intimidatingly large, you can always use a calculator to factor it. Negative 14 is the sum. How do you do that? Well, you just look for a number that goes into 45. I know 5 does. So 1 and 45, or 5 and 9, or 3 and 15, because 3 also goes into 45. And when you take 45 and divide it by 3, you get 15. So you can find the product pairs, or the factor pairs that way. Which of these adds up to negative 14? Wait, none of them do. So the astute student remembers, oh yeah, both of these need to be negative, and in fact, you don't even have to write these first 3 factors if you remember that fact. But we need this to add up to negative 14. So I'm going to check a negative times a negative is a positive, negative times a negative, and a negative times a negative, when we see, negative 5 and negative 9, those add up to negative 14. So 3x squared minus 5x minus 9 plus 15. The minus 5x and the minus 9 are the ways we're going to break up the negative 14x. Factor out an x, because that's the GCF for the first one. For the second one, we want to make sure we get 3x minus 5 as what's left over. So you could figure that out by doing simple division, and notice that negative 3 is the GCF. If you used positive 3, you would find that those 2 sets of parentheses are not the same, and they always have to be the same in order for us to do this next step. So once they're the same, they're both 3x minus 5, then we get x minus 3 times 3x minus 5. For the last one, write down product sum. Remember, there's no number, it's an invisible 1, so 1 times negative 12 is negative 12 is our product, and the sum is 1. So the factors of negative 12, we have negative 1 and 12, 1 and negative 12. And every pair, you can switch the negatives. It's a good idea to do that just to make sure you have them all written down there. Which of these adds up to positive 1? It's negative 3 and positive 4. So let's split up 1 into negative 3 and positive 4. And those 2 add up to 1, so we can split it up that way, even though it looks strange at first. All right, the GCF of the first 2 is x. And the GCF of the second 2 is 4. And that gets us x minus 3 in both parentheses, which is exactly what we want. And when we finish factoring, we have x plus 4 times x minus 3. Thank you for watching.